So we're a philanthropic impact investor with the aim to alleviate poverty through entrepreneurial means. That means that we invest in impact companies that have a social impact on people living at the base of the pyramid. We do that globally or in the global south, amongst other regions, also Latin America.
And we invest in companies where they are at early growth. That's how they call them. How we call them, and they are companies that are between seed and Series A. We invest in equity or equity like funding, and we are agnostic in sector. But normally we like to create a lot of value. And what this means is that we have like 4 sectors or pillars that we really like. That is where we find ourselves to provide more advice or more created value, which are employability, agricultural value chains, last mile retail and services, and climate and livelihoods.
The foundation was founded actually 20 years ago. This year we will celebrate our 20th anniversary this year.
Wow.
By Peter Ruffley, who was the CEO of UBS. And it's 20 years ago, of course, it was more classic philanthropy, always with the aim of investing in entrepreneurial solutions, because the conviction of the founder was already then that if you want to make impact sustainable in the long term, it needs to be entrepreneurial. And over time, more and more, the foundation started to invest more in equity instrument or convertibles. And I think since about 10 or 12 years, we're operating with the model we have today, where we do direct investments into companies. Yeah. So I think where in the beginning our strong focus was Africa and India. And I remember when I joined 8 years ago, of course, I had a background in Latin America already. So that was a bit my objective, my personal goal. I started to look more into Latin America. We did first investments, I guess 7 years ago, 7.5 years ago. But over time, you realized that investing in Latin America out of Switzerland was really hard. I think it was just difficult to get pipeline, the connection, the ecosystem. And as we grew as an organization and also had a bit more capacities, we first opened an office in Africa, because it was our core region. And then suddenly it was also clear that if it was a bit like, if we really want to be a significant player in Latin America, we need to be on the ground. And to be honest, I volunteered. So I came to Mexico, I think, in 23 to first of all pilot a little bit how would the office look like, what is our strategy for Latin America, do we add value as an organization here, what's needed, etc. And then very soon I brought this amazing woman on board. And soon we will have another person joining the team. Of course, we also have the team in Switzerland that supports us. So half of us are sitting in Switzerland and the other half is here, that are looking specifically into Latin America.
And as of today, we have 6 investments in LATAM.
I see.
Mm-hmm.
You want to give an example of one?
Yeah, so in Mexico, for example, we have one company called Toroto. They do project development for nature-based solutions with ejidos, which are communal lands, where they split the revenue from those and sell the carbon credits, but also do water projects as well.
I think when I recall the first investments, and like we have we used to do a lot of, we call them scouting tours, where, especially when we were a smaller team and didn't have like local presence, we traveled for, let's say, 2-3 weeks to a certain region and really tried to talk to everyone, tried to get as much pipeline as possible and really also understand the ecosystem. And I recall when we did our first scouting tours in Latin America that I think there was almost no impact first equity investor at the time, or very, very few. I mean, to be honest, that hasn't changed that much, but I still feel that more and more, also because the investments we do or the space we invest as an equity invest, it's very hard to do that with return expectations. But at the same time, it's slowly foundations are starting to get into impact investing, especially or more and more into also equity structure. I think the more obvious choice for many is to go into more debt or into blended finance structures. And I feel that with this, let's say, trend in the foundation side, you see more capital coming into impact first equity, or generally impact first capital. So I think that's a good trend, but we are not there yet. I think just also in terms of regulations, right? It's still difficult, if not impossible, as a foundation to be structured as a foundation, but still do for-profit investments. I mean, barely in Switzerland, we have passed a law a few years ago where that officially was rolled out or seen as a public policy that is desired. We've been always operating, of course, within the Swiss law, but I think we were for a long time the exception, and now more impact capital or philanthropic capital is coming into the sector, which is great.